Virginia sandstone, the same sandstone as the walls.
Right, and I think we're going to go, maybe some people are starting to arrive. So I'm hoping to see who's coming. We're definitely still setting up, but people are going to trickle in as we go through this. So we'll get to see that as well, hopefully. Oh, yep, here we go.
You know, it's interesting, President Reagan's inauguration, 1985, so many were standing. If you look at the footage of it, so many, just about all. We'll talk about John Stennis from Mississippi earlier, who was seated. He was recovering from an illness. But look at this moment as the first group arrive.
You know, earlier you were talking about the Capitol dome and how it's made out of cast iron. Imagine all of the work that goes into the upkeep of the Capitol, and that's all done by our big boss, the architect of the Capitol.
Tremendous job.
Yep, and the Capitol dome has had a couple of restorations over the years. The most recent one was in 2016, but they also just finished this whole restoration of the stone on the outside of the Capitol. I mean, some of it is from the sandstone that you were just mentioning is also on the outside of the Capitol, kind of in the middle of the building, but then on the bigger wings with the pediments, that's all marble from Lee, Massachusetts.
Yes.
I have a lot of Massachusetts facts. I know, Ron's from Kentucky, I'm from Massachusetts, and we each have our own, we each have our own special facts about where we're from.
Let's listen to the University of Nebraska at Lincoln Choir, please.
That was, I mean, just gorgeous. From the University of Nebraska. That is so hard to do, to change how you're going to stand for a performance like that. I'm a singer, and I've done many performances in all different types of places. That was amazing. That song was One Voice by Ruth Moody. And now I think we're going to see some people arrive, maybe. We're back on the East Front. So hopefully some people are going to start showing up pretty soon.
Our former vice presidents are approaching now. Remember, this will be the inauguration of the 50th vice president, J.D. Vance from the state of Ohio. The vice president is president of the Senate. Again, this angle provided for us by JCIC depicts the Senate side of the Capitol. We expect to see former vice presidents arriving shortly. That was a wonderful rendition. We love music, and see the pan shot here that's getting the entire campus. Well, I shouldn't say when we say East Front, we're talking the area across from the Library of Congress and the modern-day Supreme Court. So oftentimes we say East Front, and someone might say, well, could you be more specific? And I'm hoping that that helps.
Yeah, and we've been mentioning JCIC a couple of times, and we said it at the top, but we'll repeat it again, that JCIC stands for the Joint Committee on Congressional Inaugural Ceremonies. That is quite a mouthful, and that's why we say JCIC. And I think we have a little bit more information from the members of JCIC, specifically the chair of this inauguration's JCIC committee, Amy Klobuchar. So we'll be watching that.
The peaceful transfer of power is at the heart of our democracy. It reaffirms that ours is and always will be a government of, by, and for the people. The inaugural ceremonies are one of our most iconic traditions, where we recognize our democracy and the sacred values that tie us together in front of millions of people across the country and around the globe. The tradition of the inaugural ceremonies at the Capitol dates back to when Thomas Jefferson took office in the old Senate chamber in 1801. It was almost 8 years after President George Washington first laid the cornerstone of the building in 1793, and only one wing of the building had been completed at the time. Over time, the ceremony was moved to the east side of the building and later to the west front for President Ronald Reagan's inauguration in 1981. Through the years, our dedication to the continuity of our government has remained the same, and today we carry the torch forward yet again. The inaugural ceremonies are the culmination of nearly 250 years of our great American experiment in democracy. Our founding fathers intended for the stability of the country to be rooted in the will of the people. Whether or not our candidate wins, we as a nation recognize that when the president-elect raises his right hand and takes the inaugural oath of office, that signifies the peaceful transfer of power. That's what this ceremony is all about. Since George Washington was sworn in as our first president in 1789, the inaugural ceremonies have taken place every 4 years through times of peace, prosperity, and adversity. Today, we gather at the Capitol, a beacon of freedom, to fulfill the Constitution's promise to protect our enduring democracy for generations to come.
"175 years ago, one former senator and Secretary of State summarized the theme of our 2025 presidential inauguration. He said, "The Constitution of the United States was made not merely for the generation that then existed, but for posterity, unlimited, undefined, endless, perpetual posterity." Our Constitution established this country as a shining city upon a hill, the first nation founded upon an idea, Our Constitution realized the founders' vision of a government striving to protect each person's right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Our Constitution revolutionized America. It revolutionized the world. It was the first of its kind. In many ways, our Constitution was for the generation who wrote it, but more than that, it was for the generations that followed. It is for us today, and it is for our descendants, the generations that will follow us. The Constitution enshrined our inalienable God-given rights. It immortalized America's commitment to justice and to liberty for all, and the democracy that keeps those ideals alive. After all, the Constitution begins with we the people. Today's inauguration continues the traditions that have upheld our nation and its peaceful transfer of power for almost 2.5 centuries. The theme of the 60th inaugural ceremonies is Our Enduring Democracy, a constitutional promise. Like I said earlier, that theme was described 175 years ago, a decade before the Civil War. But most significantly, it was described at our founding. It is described in our very own Constitution, established to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. This 60th inauguration, only the second time a president has been sworn in for a second time, marks another milestone in securing those blessings for ourselves and the generations to come. May we not forget the rich significance of our peaceful transfer of power today. And may today renew our commitment to the American Constitution and to the American people.
Welcome back to the 60th inauguration. You are looking presently at the east front of the United States Capitol. We look forward to welcoming the children of President George Bush. You see the camera zooming in. What a wonderful video. We just heard from Senator Deb Fischer from Nebraska, the chair of CHASIC, Senator Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota. So as we continue to zoom in towards the east front, the buildup continues. I know it's noon that the oath of office is rendered, but there's so much to see prior to this on a rather beautiful but cold day.
Right. You can see the ice is still on the lawn out there. A lot of work goes into making sure that all of these surfaces are safe for everyone to walk on. And hopefully we'll get to see former President Bush arrive fairly shortly.
There is a tree that his father planted to Lamar Smith from Texas. I'm a huge fan of our Capitol grounds. So when we talk about names, sometimes I'm going to reference trees. You'll hear that throughout the broadcast. And the type of tree, I know. Like there's a white ash to Speaker Sam Rayburn. It's not far. Matter of fact, there is a tree to Senator Edward Kennedy just to the left. Actually, you can see it in this camera range now. That tree just to the left of the brick wall here.
Oh, and here they are. Here's, this is, I believe, former President Bush and Mrs. Bush, Laura Bush. They're arriving now, coming around to the carriage door. Because at one point people arrived by carriages, right?
Yes.
And so they'll be coming in over on the Senate side of the building in just a few minutes, I think.
I love that Laura and George Bush President, they met at the undergraduate library, right?
Well, she was a librarian.
You're right, she was a librarian.
Yep.
Yeah, I love that.
Yep, President Bush, he served 2 terms in office, right?
Yes.
starting in 2001. I don't know, could I go back that far? That was 20 years ago.
I tell you, his inauguration wasn't exactly warm that day as well, at least the first one, as I recall. Look at everyone. Now, this is our first look at really at the House side of the Capitol. Our camera views focused on the Senate side. This extension happened in 1857. So for those that have watched a State of the Union or an address in the House chamber, that chamber is December 16th, 1857.
Yeah, from this angle, you can really see the difference between the two types of stone as well. The older stone that is painted sandstone, and then the lovely marble on the other side. But you get a really good view of how the Capitol has been put together through time. But it looks seamless.
Yes. Emily, we have another trivia question for everyone.
We do.
Okay. How many swearing-in ceremonies have occurred on the east front of the Capitol? Again, when we say east front, we're talking about if you're coming from the Library of Congress or the Supreme Court, looking back at the Capitol, how many inaugural swearing-ins have occurred on the east front? Can I give people numbers?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, give me.
Okay, here we go.
Give me a list.
A, 14, B, 24, C, 26, just to throw you off, D, 34.
Well, I read this last night, so I know it's 34. I know it's 34 happened on this side of the building over time.
The point being is this is what a lot of people are used to seeing. Again, if you're a certain age, this side is, my goodness, all of the building is historic, but this is memorable for a lot of people. For President Kennedy, we could go Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Not all of them, but
right. I mean, I think being the history nerd that I am, the picture of the inauguration I think of this side of the building is Lincoln's. I mean, I mentioned him before, but I'll mention him again.
Frederick Douglass, who attended the second inauguration of President Lincoln.
Right.
That's when I arrived.
And, they're still building the Capitol, the new dome, when they had Lincoln's inauguration on this side of the building. So we've had inaugurations under all sorts of circumstances. And yet, there is a transfer of power, this enduring democracy that the two senators were talking about. It all goes on. And I mean, I saw another car come in, but I don't know who's arriving at the moment. But we will definitely see more and more people as we go through. While I'm looking at this, I'm looking at those lanterns.
Oh, sure.
And this landscape was done by Frederick Law Olmsted. If you think, oh, maybe I've heard of his name before, you might have heard of him because he's the one who designed. Ron, you're the expert.
Oh,
Central Park.
Central Park. Every college campus, from Maine to the state of Georgia, Iowa State. There's a tree. Yes, there's a tree named after Frederick Law Olmsted, not far from this area. You'll have to come and take our Capitol grounds tour. Not in January, for goodness sakes, in May and June. We anticipate more of dignitaries approaching, more families. Just think about when their day started. This morning, with some of them with the prayer breakfast, some with, at St. John's Church, which is historic, just across from Lafayette Park. So, again, this build-up continues.
Yeah, and I think, here we go. Yes, this is the Trump family arriving now.
That's hard to believe. The 2017 inauguration of Vice President Pence and President Trump, it was 48 degrees. You remember that, Emily? It rained. You remember it rained at least part of that day. And although I must say, people are walking as if it's not exactly recreational weather out there, but
they're walking swiftly,
ambitiously.
When I was looking at the inaugural movie that we saw before, the thing I noticed was how tiny Barron Trump was, because he was just a little boy.
Well, not now.
Not now.
No, he's
Yep, now he's in college. And so it looks like some folks are getting out of the cars now. But yeah, I believe all of the president's elect children, all of his children are attending today. It's a big event for families, real pinnacle moment.
Mm-hmm.
We're just watching.
They are
them
moving
coming
quickly.
in.
That's a
Yeah. There they are, walking inside, yeah.
reacting to the person in the brown overcoat, moving swiftly.
Mm-hmm.
That's like 2017, so this is something they're familiar with. This is
Right, so I think in the green, that's Ivanka, Ivanka Trump.
this fastest, yeah.
Yes. Lovely green jacket. We have
There's
more
someone in
family
black
members
that I
coming in.
just missed. They're doing this rather quickly. That's rather impressively.
Yep, all of this, of course, timed so that we can get to the noon swearing-in ceremony. And yeah, more and more people arriving as we keep on talking, and they're going to fill up the rotunda. Hundreds of people in the rotunda today, and in Emancipation Hall, which is in the Capitol Visitor Center. Capitol Visitor Center is right underneath that plaza that you see. So there we go. There's the rotunda. Everybody will take their seats in there.
I'd like to hear more from the choir. I was rather impressed.
Yeah. Yeah, the choir is a joint choir. Senator Fisher, we just heard from, she's from Nebraska, and so she asked them to come and talk, to sing for the inauguration because she's on the joint committee, and I think they did a really great job, considering they had to change everything at the last minute, like everyone else, because we're honoring the request of the president-elect to hold the ceremonies inside this year, because, as we've been talking about, it's cold outside.
There's going to be I can promise you, a stirring rendition by Lee Greenwood. I can recall my years at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And I think the first time I heard Lee Greenwood was 1986. And he sang God Bless America. There was, I can't remember the field, but a lot of people have heard this rendition via television, perhaps radio. There is nothing like it in person. And so not just the words, but look at his expression. Look at everyone that's around, and you will be moved. This is one of our great moments of an inauguration. Music. I can recall last inauguration, Garth Brooks, who rented the national anthem, just literally came in from the East Front, went through the West Front, down to the platform, and then shook someone's hand and walked away. It's just, so expect a moment here from Mr. Lee Greenwood singing "God Bless America."
I think that's going to be in a little while. But before that, I heard that some more people are arriving.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So I think former vice presidents are going to start to arrive next. So we're waiting on that. But I agree with you. Music is a very important part of the inauguration. And I'm looking forward to all of the performances that we're going to hear today.
Friends, let's hear from the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, and Steve Scalise, respectively, from Louisiana. I think you'll be touched by this video as well.
The history of the inauguration is in part a history of our people and our government. On our first inauguration day in 1789, church bells rang and ceremonial cannons were fired to celebrate George Washington becoming president. Every inauguration is a reminder that the people, and not just one man, are the ones ultimately in charge. I've experienced firsthand 2 inaugurations live, and they're such special events. Regardless of policies and politics, an inauguration represents a new moment in America as we honor a time-cherished tradition. There's reverence and a sense of togetherness, and that's what our country needs. I really believe President Trump will do a phenomenal job, and we all know the presidency is bigger than even just one man. It takes all of us for the country to succeed, and the American people are the smartest, hardworking, and most generous people in all of the world. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world, and with a great president and the great American people, I truly believe our country can soar to new heights. The inauguration also reminds us of the importance of faith. Every president has taken the oath of office using a Bible. After George Washington was sworn in, he kissed the Bible where he placed his hand. Calvin Coolidge, Ulysses Grant, Benjamin Harrison, so many other presidents did the exact same thing. And for hundreds of years now, presidents have concluded their oath with the words, "So help me God."
So help you God.
So help me God.
So help me God.
So help me God.
The United States is a gift from above, and our founders made sure that we knew that our rights come from God and not the government. They boldly proclaimed that as a self-evident truth. So even that phrase, "So help me God," is a reminder that we would be nowhere without heaven's continued care and blessing. We're all excited for the America First agenda that President Trump is leading. And we also have a real sense of reflection on our history. Our grand experiment in self-governance has endured for nearly 250 years now. In fact, it was 250 years ago, this year, that the first shots of the revolution were fired at Lexington and Concord, and Paul Revere made his famous ride. Our people have endured world wars, civil wars. We've endured economic depressions and even terrorist attacks. But no matter what trouble we face or how many times we get knocked down, we're going to get back up. We'll never be destroyed, and we will always press ahead. The secret of our genius is the timeless principles that we represent. The belief that every person is made in the image of God and has the inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We boldly proclaim that as a self-evident truth. And as we remember all the presidents we've had and the 250 years of history our people have made, we're praying that our country and our experiment in self-government will endure for generations to come.
Presidential inauguration is so important to our country because this shows the peaceful transfer of power from one president to the next. And it's not just important to the United States, to people all around the world. It shows what a real democracy looks like, and it reminds everybody why the United States is such a special place. Every presidential inauguration is an opportunity for the new president to lay out their agenda for the country and their vision, especially to show the people of the nation what's ahead, that shining city on the hill. And for Donald Trump, he becomes only the second person in history to come back as president a second time. And so as he becomes the 47th president, I'm sure President Trump's going to be laying out that vision for the nation, how we can get our country back on track and show opportunity and optimism for all Americans.
Well, welcome, if you're just joining us, to the 60th inaugural ceremonies. My name is Emily Boisvert, and I'm joined by my colleague, Ron Jackson, and we're here at the United States Capitol. We're looking at the east front of the Capitol building right now, and we're waiting for everyone, anxiously awaiting for everyone to arrive here today for the 60th inauguration.
Emily, that last video, I'd like to highlight what the House Majority Leader, Speaker Solis, referenced about inaugurations. And I wrote this quote down. This inauguration shows what a democracy looks like, the practice of democracy. I thought that that was as pointed of a moment of what I've seen so far from the videos. I really like that. Steve Scalise from Louisiana. He knows where my stepmother is from, a little place called Bunkie, Louisiana. You've never heard of that. No one's heard of that. Again, the build-up continues here. By the way, just the cloud cover just kind of split here. Look at that flag.
Oh, that's a great shot down Pennsylvania Avenue. So
that's the first one we've seen of this, right?
Right.
Of this view.
Right. So to your left-hand side, those are the Smithsonian museums, and then right ahead, right there in the middle, is the capital of the United States.
Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest. Well, normally that would be a site of parade, but this year is going to be quite different in terms of a parade. Well, that wind is increased since we came on at 8:55 Eastern Time. That is, again, this was forecasted.
Yeah, but you can really, I mean, it's a cold day, but it's a clear day, so you can see the hills in the background. That's Maryland, believe it or not, because the district is, well, it was part of Maryland originally, and then they carve out this federal district, this federal city of Washington, and designed by Pierre-Charles Enfant. So we have these wide avenues that lead to the government buildings like the U.S. Capitol.
All names that of French origin Emily will pronounce.
It goes with the last name. You gotta learn all of the French names. You know, the black flag underneath the Stars and Stripes, we also have that flying in the rotunda. And a lot of people ask us, especially international visitors, about the flag. Would you like to talk a little bit?
The Prison War Missing Action flag was really ordained when President Reagan President Reagan was inaugurated, if I'm not mistaken. And we've had a particular flag looking like that in the rotunda since the 1980s. You just mentioned about tourists. Please do not touch flags in the rotunda. Don't do it. Don't even think about it. It's not that you're trying to be disrespectful or insensitive. You just may not know, but please don't touch flags. Speaking of flags.
Back in the rotunda. Yeah, look at all those flags. Well, I recognize, of course, the American flag.
In ROTC, I at times, I was part of the color guard. And this is, of course, I was much younger. That is something to hold those streamers, to hold the American flag is a great privilege. As the camera is in this particular zoom, Emily, the three women to the left of the American flag, there's a name for them, the Portrait Monument. And I know we're going to see the rotunda a lot, but just very briefly, who are the women?
Oh, I think, well, we'll definitely talk about that before too long, but I believe that there are some members of the cabinet coming in right now, and cabinet spouses are also arriving. So we have these huge buses.
With the Marine One.
With Marine One in the background.
And for those that have history of the Capitol, but you're not familiar with the new Visitor Center, those skylights, yes, they are new for some. But we anxiously await who's...
A part of me can't believe that Marine One is on the roof of essentially our office, the Capitol Visitor Center, right?
That's true. We anticipate cabinet designees coming, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the department heads will be here shortly. But America is really on display when it comes to inaugurations.
I don't know about you, but when I was coming in today, I felt like every bus, every mode of transportation has been requisitioned for this event to make sure everybody gets there on time, make sure the streets are clear.
We anticipate seeing Mr. Musk and Zuckerberg leaving these vehicles. They've had a long 2 or 3 days. We're being selfish, or perhaps I'm being selfish in talking about the event for today, but this started, this crescendo to get us to this point has gone on for a couple of days. With no shortage of people gathering around. We'll give us a few seconds, take our time with this.
I think I see Senator Rubio has exited the bus.
Tulsi Gabbard is disembarking very shortly.
These are all people who've been nominated for the president-elect's cabinet.
Kristi Noem. Pete Hegseth, who...
Is that him out front, I believe?
with his hands in his pockets?
Yes.
Without an overcoat? I believe so. This potential Secretary of Defense. Well, he's a military guy. Is this just a mere brisk day for him? He's going to be fine.
Yeah, so it looks like they're getting a military escort into the Capitol. And
I see United States Marines. That's what I see.
Mm-hmm. Is it Marine band, Marine escort?
Well, yes, but I do see Air Force personnel. Military District of Washington, all 6 participating. We're going to hear a little later, I think, from the Coast Guard band.
Yep. There's so much that goes into planning for all of these people to come to the Capitol building and gather together for this ceremony. All the little pieces, we're seeing all of them right now.
Emily, I saw people running in shorts on Capitol Saturday. Yesterday morning, breezy. Then conditions changed. It was cold. It was windy. You wouldn't know, but look how beautiful the day is.
It looks clear, but I'm telling you, it is very cold. Oh, and there's another shot of the Capitol right out front.
Oh, Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest, yes.
Yep.
It's about a mile and a half between the Capitol building and the President's house. By the way, it's Theodore Roosevelt that renamed the President's house the White House. That's who did that.
Yep. So it looks like everybody's making their way inside. I'm sure they're happy about that.
Emily, I think we've seen no shortage of I'd say about 300 people that have entered the East Front. And we know the rotunda. We saw chairs. There won't be that many to be seated, and there's other areas they'll be placed at. So it will be hundreds and hundreds of people here. But the moment in the rotunda, yes, that will be restricted.
Well, at least this time they get seats, because with President Reagan's second inauguration, they didn't have enough time to set all this up like we did for today, and there was basically standing room only. If you look at that footage,
yeah, people have seen footage by now. There were people, unfortunately, shall we say, close to statues. Okay, they were hanging from certain statues. Don't do that ever. You'll catch my eye. Don't do that ever.
Yeah, but here we are back in the rotunda waiting for everyone to arrive. There are some things in here that are different from how you normally see it, the bunting in particular. They've added for inauguration specifically. Usually that's not here. We're a little more pared back typically.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, former Senate Majority Leader, the Honorable Mitch McConnell, accompanied by the Honorable Elaine Chao.
Senator Mitch McConnell just being introduced from the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and his wife, former Secretary of Labor Elaine Chao.
Yep, they're coming in from the Senate side of the building.
Senator Mitch McConnell, who is no longer in leadership, but still very prevalent. Well, what he has seen, think about the years, he dates back to the 1960s, the early 60s, before the March on Washington even, when he arrived in terms of being an intern as well. Think about this, they just introduced the former minority and majority leader of the Senate, and President-elect Donald Trump won't be sworn in until approximately noon. Now again, stay with us. Even beyond the inauguration, the National Statuary Hall with our luncheon, the President's Room, the sign. There's a lot to see.
That's right. Now, we've been talking about how cold it is. outside, right?
Yes.
Did you notice when we were watching the inauguration that people weren't wearing hats?
Didn't
When we
notice
were
that.
in the video.
Did notice that.
So which president was last, do you think, to wear a top hat?
Well, did not President Kennedy take his hat off?
He did.
Well, he has good hair. I mean, who would?
Yeah.
But now it's a stovepipe hat is what we're, in terms of tradition, right? That rather direct presence. It's kind of sharp. I've never worn one.
No?
No, I've never worn a stovepipe hat. That might change.
Next time you come to a tour at the Capitol, look for Ron and his stovepipe hat. Well, I mean, we're still just waiting for more people to arrive, but it's a...
Let's see what we can see here.
Yeah, I'm trying to...
Oh, Mr. Zuckerberg entering. Who is that with that stunning white coat? What, that's really sharp. Oh, Mr. Bezos, Jeff Bezos just came. Thank you to our spotters. We should have said that. Thank you to our spotters.
Yep, looks like more people are arriving right now. Hopefully we'll be able to see who they are. Oh, and yes, it looks like they're going into the carriage door on the Senate side and then moving across and over to the House side again.
Okay, former President William Jefferson Clinton and Senator and First Lady Hillary
And
Rodham Clinton.
Secretary
Yes.
Clinton.
It's 1996 inauguration. I remember walking down the street from the Union Station. Oh, there it comes.
Oh. Yep, there's Secretary Clinton. You can
Okay.
see her in the black with the turquoise scarf.
I was going to say teal. I'm glad you said turquoise. The Obamas are close behind.
Is President Obama.
I should say, excuse me, President Obama, excuse me.
Yep. President Obama's coming out next. Bill Clinton's 1997 inauguration was the first one broadcast on the internet.
Correct.
I remember looking that up. We still had dial-up internet at the time.
Dial-up internet.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
We've
That
moved
was
on from
brutal.
that. Yes. But President Obama is going to be the next to arrive, we believe. And he's walking in now. Yep. So looks like everybody's coming out for this. There he is.
There he is.
I can.
Look at that distinctive walk.
Yes, I was going to say the same thing.
And without a coat, without a hat. He feels nothing waving at someone.
Yep.
Speaking of inaugurations that had cold weather.
Yeah,
Oh,
President Obama's was fairly cold.
Fairly cold. My goodness.
Both of them.
Yeah, that's right, actually.
I was here for the second one.
I've never talked about weather so much in my life.
Yeah. You can see just more people arriving on the east front.
Well,
Yep.
just inching our way towards
And you
the
can
oath
hear.
of office. you're going to remark about the instruments, the band.
Mm-hmm. You can hear the Marine Band again. People taking their seats. The main podium is going to be flanked by these paintings we were talking about earlier by John Trumbull. And these are all based on the really the founding of the United States. It starts, we have revolution scenes. Oh, here we have more people arriving.
The staging areas throughout the Capitol. The Capitol has over 500 rooms, and many, including the Capitol Visitor Center, will be used.
Is that Majority Leader Scalise? No.
I think you're in the red tie. Mm-hmm. Yes, black suit.
Yeah.
Now remember, friends, the ceremony. One of the ceremonies, I should say, the prelude is about 11 o'clock. So again, we'll get there. I know it's 10:21 Eastern time. We will get there. We'll get to William Henry Harrison in a little while in terms of 1841 when he